A 17-year-old girl went missing from the pharmacy where she worked part-time. At first, everyone thought she had simply gone home, but when the manager started reviewing the security footage, he saw something alarming that led to a horrifying discovery. In this video, we'll tell you what happened to Riley Whitlow and why this case sparked public outrage. Riley Whitlow was born on January 20th, 2005, in Colorado Springs. From a young age, she was passionate about drawing, dancing, and playing the guitar. She achieved considerable success in all these areas, frequently winning prizes in various city and school competitions. In high school, she volunteered at an animal charity, dedicating almost all her free time to it, despite a busy academic schedule. At 16, she also took a part-time job at a pharmacy to earn her own pocket money. Riley worked there a few days a week, balancing her job with school and volunteering. She quickly got along with her colleagues and was generally happy with the job. On June 11, 2022, she started her shift at the pharmacy as usual. Around 5:30 p.m., Riley went to the staff room for her scheduled break. Half an hour later, the store manager noticed Riley hadn't returned to her post. After searching the store and finding no trace of her, the manager called the morning shift manager to return to the pharmacy. Initially, they thought Riley had left without informing them. To verify, the second manager reviewed the security footage. When he reached the staff room tape, he noticed something odd. Earlier in the day, another employee had stacked boxes in front of the camera, completely blocking its view. This was suspicious, as the staff room was not meant for storing products. The manager also noticed the room's windows were covered with paper and tape, which wasn't the case during his morning shift. Additionally, a closed sign hung on the restroom door, which was unusual since it only closed with the store. Finally, the manager decided to check the staff room. His colleague had skipped this room earlier, thinking Riley would have left after her break. Around 7 p.m., the manager entered the staff room and found Riley's lifeless body, surrounded by blood. He immediately called the police. Investigators quickly determined it was a murder. They first interviewed the managers, who mentioned the strange footage and covered windows. Detectives asked for the name of the employee who blocked the security camera. It was 28-year-old Joshua Johnson, who was no longer at the pharmacy. None of his colleagues saw him leave. The evening shift manager shared an interesting detail with the detectives. While searching for Riley, she had stepped outside and noticed a strong bleach smell coming from the dumpsters. She approached, but a man's voice told her he was changing and asked her not to look. Surprised, she went back inside to tell her colleague. When they returned outside, the man was gone, leaving behind an empty bleach bottle. Police soon found their first witness. A customer in the pharmacy around 5:44 p.m. heard a woman scream and some noise. The scream quickly stopped, and the woman didn't think much of it. Several other customers and employees reported hearing a muffled scream, but didn't investigate further. This information helped detectives piece together the evening's events. Riley's break was from 5:30 to 6 p.m. During this time, she was attacked. For almost an hour, the managers couldn't find her until one checked the staff room. Medical examiners revealed Riley had been stabbed 42 times and hit on the head multiple times. Police suspected Joshua Johnson, who had blocked the camera hours before the murder and fled the pharmacy without notifying anyone. Further investigation revealed Riley had repeatedly complained about Joshua's advances. Despite her constant rejections and discomfort, he persisted, trying to persuade her to go on a date with him. Riley was 16 when she started working at the pharmacy, and Joshua was 27. His relentless behavior and refusal to take no for an answer pointed to his possible involvement in this tragic case. The young woman eventually approached her manager to resolve the ongoing issue. He promised to take necessary actions, but in the end, he only spoke to Joshua and asked him to be more professional at work. Naturally, this yielded no results, and Joshua continued his attempts to win her over. By March 2022, the situation worsened. Riley's boyfriend started working at the same pharmacy, which infuriated Joshua. According to his colleagues, Joshua was jealous of Riley's boyfriend and behaved quite aggressively. The situation was further complicated by the fact that all three of them worked the same shifts. At the end of May, just a few weeks before the murder, Riley once again approached management and requested to change her work schedule so she wouldn't have to overlap with Joshua's shifts. She explained that his behavior was becoming increasingly worse, making it impossible for her to work with him. However, the manager said they couldn't completely alter her schedule. He offered her different hours, but with a reduced number of working hours. Despite the significant pay cut, Riley agreed. A few days before the murder, she went back to the manager and asked for more hours. He said it was only possible if Riley took evening shifts, which meant working with Joshua again. She reluctantly agreed because her income had significantly decreased with the reduced hours. For an entire year, Riley tried to get management to take actions that would ensure her safety, but the OA only shrugged their shoulders in response. Knowing all this, the police became even more convinced of Joshua's involvement. That same evening, they issued a warrant for his arrest, and the next day, Joshua was found. Patrol officers spotted him walking along a highway near Trinidad, more than 200 kilometers from the murder scene. As soon as they stopped and approached Joshua, the officers noticed scratches on his face, neck, and arms. Additionally, his clothes were stained with blood. He didn't resist and went with them to the station. Meanwhile, detectives found Joshua's car abandoned under a railway overpass. Inside, they discovered blood-stained towels and bandages, as well as disposable razor blades. According to the police, Joshua had attempted to cut his own hair, but succeeded only partially. The car was also missing floor mats. During the first interrogation, Joshua claimed he didn't kill Riley. He said that on that day, he entered the staff room and saw her lying on the floor in a pool of blood with an unknown man with blue eyes standing over her, armed with a knife. Joshua said he attacked the man, and during the short struggle, he got all the scratches. At some point, he managed to escape. When detectives asked why he didn't call the police or tell anyone about the incident, Joshua's response was strange. He said the killer knew his home address, so he was scared and decided to remain silent. Naturally, the investigators were skeptical of this dubious story. Surveillance cameras didn't capture any outsiders entering the staff room. In fact, the footage clearly showed Joshua blocking the camera's view with boxes. When asked why he did that, he denied it, despite the irrefutable evidence. Later, he slightly changed his story, claiming he had entered the staff room, slipped in the pool of blood, soiled his clothes, and went home to change. Joshua insisted that he no longer had any romantic feelings for Riley. He admitted that he had tried to court her during the first few months of working together, but later entered into a romantic relationship with his superior. However, the woman immediately refuted his claims, stating that her interactions with Joshua were strictly work-related. Shortly after his arrest, Joshua was charged with first-degree murder. In September, he appeared in court for the preliminary hearing. The judge heard testimony from various witnesses, including Riley's colleagues and the detectives working on the case. They all expressed their firm belief in Joshua's guilt, stating that no one else had the motive or opportunity to commit the crime. According to the prosecution, Joshua had planned the murder from the beginning of his shift. He obscured the staff room camera and covered the windows with paper, then waited for Riley to go on her lunch break. When she entered the room, he attacked her, but she fought back. She managed to scratch his face and arms, but ultimately Joshua killed her. He then attempted to clean up the blood with towels, but he failed. Apparently, he hadn't expected Riley to resist so fiercely, which disrupted his plans to cover up the crime. Realizing he couldn't clean up the mess, Joshua decided to flee. Before leaving, he tried to bleach the bloodstains from his clothes, threw the bloodied towels into his car, and drove off. Joshua's lawyer argued that there was no substantial evidence against his client. He suggested that someone else might have committed the murder and that Joshua was innocent. Currently, the man remains in custody, awaiting trial. Should he plead not guilty, the trial could extend over several years. Regardless, there's no doubt in anyone's mind that he is the one behind this murder. His absurd explanations have only served to heighten suspicions against him. However, Joshua isn't the only one being blamed for Riley's death. After the story made headlines, people began to accuse the pharmacy management of negligence, which they believe led to the tragedy. Had the management heeded her complaints and requests, the tragedy might have been avoided.